Welcome to the Stevia Show. It's the Stevia Show. Helping you expand on what you know. Throw in a meme of the week and a review of the screen. And to have a show that covers everything.
Hey, Team Stevia, and welcome to episode 94 of the Stevia Show.
A talk show podcast that covers pop culture, world news, local artistry, and everything in between.
As always, this is Steven.
And this is Lydia.
And we hope everybody is having a great day. Thank you so much for listening to our previous episode, We Dissent, where I actually got the name of the podcast wrong. So thankfully I got it correct today. So
nice.
So there is a lesson in learning, and we're excited to share the news with you all and some updates. But first, we can go ahead and just give the people what they want with the meme of the week. And by
just
the people,
jump on in.
By the people, I largely mean Dalton, because he won for the second week in a row. So I did not go through my usual, whenever he wins, I win the next week. So maybe next week I will win. So the meme that Dalton submitted is actually a Stevia meme, which by the way, I love that we have like Stevia lore now. It's like,
yeah, me too. It's kind of funny when I see anything that says the Stevia Show. I'm like, oh,
like, hey. Wait, that's us. You know,
like, that's us.
Yeah, that's us. Yeah.
We have a meme about us.
Right. That was like that one time where I think Matt, Matt kind of doesn't count because he's, part of our close lives, but still it was funny seeing it on Twitter where it was the dog in the podcast and it said, he said, it's a talk show podcast that covers, I was like, hey, that's actually pretty funny.
Hey, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So the meme of the week, it looks like this is a Western Union freight train, or Union Pacific, Union Pacific. Western Union is the money people for the money orders. Okay. But anyway, it's just hopefully this is controlled, because if not, this is a bummer. It's a school bus on the railroad track, and it does appear to be empty. So I feel better about restating this meme. So it's a school bus on the train track, and again, it is empty. And it says my Spotify morning drive playlist is the school bus, and then this big freight train like smashes the bus, and it says welcome to the Stevia Show in all caps, because as you all know, it's our theme song that when the clock strikes does, and the very first thing is welcome to the Stevia Show, but it's a lot louder and a lot more talented than I just did it.
A lot more louder, definitely louder.
Yeah, we just like to get y'all ready on your Monday morning, just
you got to pump you up,
Right, got to give you a nice oomph. So
some oomph in your life.
Oomph, yes. So, and I believe this is your first one for spooky season, correct?
Yes. So awesome. Lydia's, I changed it to Lydia's spooky season media review. You see that?
Boo.
And I can't remember, was it Daniel or who asked me to do these?
It was Mike.
Yes. So at Mike, here you go, pal. So I did not watch anything new, but I did rewatch The Haunting of Hill House, which I think I talked about last year when it came out, but I wanted to talk about it again, watch it and talk about it again, because I think that this is slowly becoming one of my favorite spooky season shows.
Ooh.
So for those of you who have not watched it or heard of it, this story follows siblings who as children grew up in what would go on to become the most famous haunted house in the country. Now adults, they are forced back together in the face of tragedy and must finally confront the ghosts of their past. Some of those ghosts still lurk in their minds, while others may actually be stalking the shadows of Hill House.
Spooky.
So Rotten Tomatoes actually gave this a 93%, and I gave it a 9.5 out of 10.
That's
so
high for a horror movie.
It's so high for a horror movie. I mean, most of your horror, it's a series, so it is shows. I'm tangled in my headphones. It is a series of I think they're an hour episodes.
Okay.
So my notes are, this is a rewatch for me, but still one of the best spooky season shows I've ever watched. If you have not seen this series on Netflix, you are missing out. And they recently announced The Haunting of Bly Manor, which is by the same producers, and I cannot wait because it comes out on October 9th.
Which is next week.
Yep. So you will hear a review of that in probably two weeks from now. Because I'm in love with how the series is made, and if it's anything like, if Bly Manor is anything like Hill House, it's going to be excellent.
Okay, cool. So it's a.
Steven. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, but I was saying this isn't a movie; it's a series. Then.
Yeah. So
okay.
it's a Netflix show, but it's a spooky show.
Well, see, the weird thing is because whenever you mention that, I mean, I haven't seen American Horror Story, but I know those were extremely well received too. So it makes me wonder.
Those are shows. Those are episodes.
Right. So it makes me, but each season, like it's the same universe, but each season's a completely different cast and crew. Okay. Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So the weird
and
thing
that's
is,
kind of, I think that's kind of what they're doing here is they're taking The Haunting of Bly Manor. I was reading, and I think it's based on a true story.
Gotcha.
The Haunting of Hill House was based off of a book, but it wasn't based off a true story. So it was an author wrote the book, and then it became this Netflix series.
Yes.
And then the producers, I think, found this as a true story, and they're doing it that way.
Okay.
But yeah, I think people are liking, especially if you can make it as good as Hill House. I mean, I would rather watch a 10-episode Netflix series if it's good than a mediocre to bad scary movie, which most scary movies nowadays are kind of just trash.
Well, I feel like most scary movies in general aren't very good. Like the weird thing about scary movies is that I feel like critically they're either fantastic or terrible. Like there's not really that was a, okay scary movie. It's either like this totally blew my nips off or it's no big deal. It's
exactly. And I think since the 80s probably we haven't really had any good scary movies really.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any big...
I mean, Scream is great. Psycho is great.
American
Silence
Psycho is really
of the Lambs.
good. Silence of the Lambs is really good. Yeah. Oh, I guess that's not true. I mean, Midsummer, I really enjoyed that, but it didn't
yeah, and that's kind of like
cinema,
a dark,
But
that's kind of just like a dark drama. That's not really a scary movie.
Maybe what we need to do is reach out and have a conversation between you and Steven and Jaron Walker, because they are also both big horror fans. So maybe the three of you can differentiate what is and isn't a horror movie, because then you have slashers too, which aren't really horror movies. Like those are almost intentionally bad because it's just the blood and guts. That's what you come for. So I don't know, it's weird, but yeah, kind of
weird.
But going off of what you were saying earlier, I did watch, I think since last week, 2 new movies. So I think I reviewed The Shining last time, which I did.
You did.
Yeah, which I did really enjoy. Abby and I tried watching it because Abby hadn't seen it.
Another great scary movie that is not in the 1990s to today.
Right, because I think The Shining was either, I think it was 80 or 81, one of the two. But anyway, fantastic film. Loved The Shining. But I tried watching it with Abby this past week, and she fell asleep through it both times. So she just wasn't vibing with it. So she can. She wasn't
feeling it.
Yeah. So she's actually in good company with Stephen King, who famously didn't like The Shining movie, which is weird because he, of course, wrote the book, and then everybody loved the movie. But then, except for Stephen King, was like, I'm not a big fan of it. But
it was fine.
But he's also.
But I guess when you write the book though, you have the power to be like, it's okay.
Yeah, and I mean,
my book's better, but it's fine.
Right, and it's not like Stephen King is some low profile author. He's one of the best of all time, so I mean, and which is weird, as so is Stanley Kubrick. So I feel like they're both entitled to their opinion. It's just a weird dynamic. But speaking of really influential movies, the 2 that I watched last week, I definitely liked one more than the other. I guess both of them could actually probably qualify for spooky season, one more so than the other. The one that would kind of iffy on spooky season is A Clockwork Orange, another Stanley Kubrick film. I wouldn't say it's more of a crime suspense movie, but it is very psychologically disturbing. Very much kind of like American Psycho. I wouldn't really say American Psycho is a scary movie. I'd say that's more of a psychological thriller. It's mentally scary, but it's not blah, and it's gonna spook you like that.
Yeah.
So
I still think that's kind of.
It's so weird.
I feel like that counts as horror though, because people get freaked out when it comes to
and I
your
do
psycho
too. But that's the weird thing, is that I find the jump scare stuff, like to me that is scarier because like I'm
Yeah.
outright not expecting it. But then with like the psychological stuff, you get to generally watch the character's descent into madness, and
Right.
to me that's the interesting part. But
Yeah.
that's the other thing too, is you can argue for both sides. You can argue
Yeah, you
why
can really argue because honestly, too, if we're going that route, then the new movie, the new Joker movie could count as like
exactly.
a horror, really.
Right, but then it's to me that one is
But it's
also
like
more of a
not.
suspense, but it's
Right.
scary. It is mentally, it's so weird.
I think it would still count as spooky season, you know?
Yeah, but so anyway, A Clockwork Orange treads on that water. But anyway, I rate that movie a perfect 10 out of 10. It instantly jumps.
Yeah.
Instantly jumped into my top 5 films. I think it's at number 3. On Twitter, we actually discussed our favorite films with Team
we
Stevia.
should talk about those.
Yeah,
Here, I'll pull it up.
Let's talk about that in Stevia sound off. Yeah, but that's a
okay.
fantastic idea. Fantastic idea. Because other people shared that too.
Yeah,
So more on that later, but it did jump immediately to number 3 on my all-time favorite film list. It is again a very disturbing movie, so there is a lot of violence and sexual violence in the movie too, which I of course do not condone.
See, and I don't like that.
But
I don't
the
know
reason,
if I'm able to watch a movie like that.
Yeah,
Normally, if they have scenes like that, I will turn the movie off.
Right, and the weird thing about it is that Stanley Kubrick, and he's already like known as one of the best directors of all time. He, like, the whole point is that you are like physically distanced from that violence, so like you can't help but like want to watch, and then you actually end up kind of empathizing with. It's really weird because the main character is a bad person, but then he gets treated very poorly as punishment. So it's like, do you feel bad for him? Do you not?
Yeah.
Because
those kind of movies really up with you, man. Because you're like,
yeah, and that's why A Clockwork Orange is so weird for me, because like the first half of the movie is all about the lead character Alex committing these horrible crimes, but then the second half is him getting basically brainwashed, and you almost feel bad for him, but you don't. And people who try to help him end up trying to hurt him more. It's really weird, really weird. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it for the violence. I loved it because it raises a lot of ethical and moral questions. And that's why I thought it was so good. But for a definitive spooky season movie is another one of the greats, Alfred Hitchcock. I finally watched Psycho, not American Psycho. I've seen that, but the OG Psycho, and not and not the Vince Vaughn remake either. I heard that was terrible.
No, don't watch that.
I won't.
Don't do that.
Yeah, but so I would rank Psycho as an 8.5 out of 10. I for sure understand why it's one of the most influential movies of all time. It just wasn't. It didn't hit as many notes with me as A Clockwork Orange and The Shining did, but I still really enjoyed it. And oh my gosh, I almost wonder if that movie invented the plot twist, because that plot twist, the payoff was so good at the very end. So good. Yeah. So
I honestly can't think of a movie before that movie that had a plot twist like that.
Like in that capacity.
Like as influential, I guess, as that plot twist is.
Yeah, and that was also during a time, and if you've seen Psycho, I'll speak in vague terms, but you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin it.
Right. But certain aspects of that movie and of the twist, like that was the first time that has ever been shown on film as well. So that also broke a lot of those like social boundaries too, which is really interesting. So I guess I can stop rambling about movies now. But
no,
anyway,
we love it. Listen, Steven, we love that because you don't get to do it a lot, right?
That's true.
So we love to hear you ramble about movies, because then that means that you watched a good movie and you actually want to talk about it.
I talked about Flubber for the same amount of time, but Flubber was so bad, and so was Inspector Gadget. Maybe I'll go back to bad movies next.
I already forgot about that. No.
Yeah, no worries.
Mike wants us to watch scary movies, so that's what we're doing.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Also, I have watched
specifically you. But I will try my best to keep up with it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to, But also, Mike, this is for Mike.
He's getting married this week too, by the way.
He is. Congratulations, Mike.
Yeah, I'm actually dog sitting Jolene. She's over here. Their dog.
Jolene.
Yeah. She does look to me. Oh, here she comes.
Oh yeah, I did see a little tail. I do see a tail that's not Hogan or Austin.
No, she's much bigger. Yeah.
So Mike, if you're listening before you get married, you can never go wrong with A Nightmare Before Christmas. And it is a Halloween movie, and yes, I do watch it from about September all the way until about January 1st.
It transcends
because
seasons.
it's Halloween and Christmas, and
Right.
it is literally, I mean, it's a 10 out of 10. I watched it 3 times this week. So
Oh yeah, love Nightmare Before Christmas. Very again
you can
prolific,
never go wrong.
iconic. Tim Burton, love it. Yeah.
Love it.
So we really don't have the meat and potatoes of this episode. We don't really have a
Yeah.
whole lot. But
Not a lot happened
thankfully,
this week, really.
do you want now? Sorry.
I said not a lot happened this week.
Yeah, but some of the stuff that has happened is kind of big. But anyway, we'll go
Yeah.
over it. But we do have some really good Stevia sound off questions. Y'all have been killing it
Yeah.
with that, so thank
We
you
do.
so much.
Very exciting.
Yeah. So the first thing we're going to talk about is sports, and in the
We love
NH
sports.
we do, and we don't care who knows. So in the NHL, the Stanley Cup Final is underway with Tampa Bay and Dallas. There will be a champion this week. It's in Game 6 right now. So hypothetically tonight, Sunday, Tampa Bay could win the Stanley Cup. So I don't want to say that one way or another because by the time this is released tomorrow, hockey could be over. But this week it's either going to be Tampa Bay or Dallas. Still pulling for the Stars, but it's looking like Tampa Bay is going to get it.
Yeah, but the Stars did, because Tampa Bay could have won
Yesterday.
on Saturday.
Right, and it went to double overtime. It was
but it went to
really,
double overtime. Yes,
It was scary. I'm
trying to keep up so I can actually talk to you about it.
Right.
So double overtime, and then the Stars stayed in it. Otherwise, if Tampa Bay would have just won, then it would have just been over, right?
Right. Because that was yeah, well, that's awesome. It was Game 5 the other day. But then, also our football teams are doing really good. So, Green Bay hasn't played yet, but they are playing the Saints this week. So go Pack.
Tonight. Sunday night.
Actually, tonight. And then the Bills are undefeated, 3-0. They had a really good game today with the Los Angeles Rams, who went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they won 35-32. So that makes me happy that they've been beating good
playing
teams.
really well.
Yeah,
They're
I think,
playing really well.
and I've been saying it. Like the Bills are like the team of the future or whatever. They just had to let Josh Allen develop a little bit, and the O-line and their defense is insane.
So good.
Yes, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if the Bills make a deep playoff run this year. They're just going to keep on getting better.
I would be so excited for that.
Same here.
Because I would just, I just love it when teams go to the playoffs that you hardly ever see.
I know, it's
like I would just be so happy if the Bills made it far.
Everybody
into the playoffs
loves a good underdog story. That is just
it's so true.
It's so integral to like our American values. I feel like literally, like if you were to go up and down the street and just ask like literally anybody, hey, do you like underdog stories? Guarantee you 95% of people are going to say yes. Like it would be an overwhelming result. Like we love underdog stories.
And they probably would have like their favorite underdog story.
Oh, we all have our favorite underdog story.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for me it was last year's St. Louis Blues. Like, and the fact that underdog story was my favorite team. Like that was just like, and then or even like I hate Chicago sports, but whenever the Chicago Cubs won the World Series, that was magical. Like you can't argue that,
magical.
even if you hate Chicago sports.
I think of when the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Oh my, that too. Yeah. You were actually over for that. That was our Super Bowl party. Yeah, and the Eagles beat the Patriots, and that was a hell of a game.
That was so good.
We all love it, even if you're not fans.
We all love it.
Absolutely. And what do we have in
and
NBA
then
action?
We have for NBA, the Lakers won the conference finals series 4-1, and so they are confirmed to go to the finals. And then Miami and the Celtics are still playing. Miami leads the Celtics 3-2, and they play again on Sunday night.
Nice, awesome. And basketball's been great this year too. Yeah, so I've actually been watching a lot more basketball this year, and the Lakers look really good. And LeBron James is he's a monster. He's unstoppable.
He's just a beast, right?
Yeah, he really is. And I kind of hope that the Celtics make it. I know they made it last year, but I feel like that would be a better final, like a more evenly skilled final than Los Angeles, Miami. Personally,
yeah, I think that if Miami got there, I feel like LA would just like destroy them.
Same here, but it'd be cool seeing LeBron James go up against one of his former teams, but I'd rather see a good series, especially with how good basketball has been this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see on that. And then in the political spectrum, as we, of course, correctly predicted last week, I feel like anybody with 2 eyes and ears could have predicted this. But President Donald Trump has nominated Amy Coney Barrett, unfortunately not Amy Coney Islander, that'd be amazing, to replace the now deceased Associate Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was the first woman to be laid in state earlier this week, which is
wow, and it was just like really emotional.
Yeah, and before we talk about this, did you see how whenever Trump went to go pay his respects, he got like people were chanting "vote him out" and
People were booing and vote him out,
and which I mean, of course, like you know, being a Republican in DC, like you already have an unfair advantage, but
right.
Or disadvantage, excuse me. But it's still like he hardly ever gets like that up close to people who dislike him because that's just not his persona. He likes being surrounded by, you know, very fine people and stuff like that.
Always very fine people.
Yeah.
Well, and I, on the other end too, I kind of felt a little bit bad for him because like, he did. So I don't know if you saw when like the reporters are the one who told him that that RBG had passed away. So I don't know if you saw the interview, but he literally was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And I think that was the first time I actually saw President Trump actually like he was like, "Wow, she was an amazing woman and she did so much for people." And that was just him. Yeah. Normally his like persona is not 100% him. I feel like he definitely likes to play the puppet. I feel like he's more puppety. Yeah, puppet master. So when I watched that interview, I was like, wow, he actually kind of cared for RBG and knew what kind of woman she was, and he actually paid attention to the things she did in life. Yeah. And so that's why I say I kind of feel bad for him when he did go to pay his respects because, you know, it kind of sucks to have protesters outside of RBG's, you know, where people are just trying to pay respects. So I did feel bad because I feel like that was kind of inappropriate, but also in DC, there's protesters everywhere on every block. So it's like, he probably expected it and his team probably told him that people were going to be there, but I did feel bad for the guy because I felt like he genuinely was sad when he learned about it, you know? Yeah.
And I mean, and I was going to say not only that, but I was also, I mean, of course people have a right to protest at funerals, like just like they have a right to protest wherever.
You can protest anywhere.
But I agree with you that a funeral, like regardless, rather if it was, you know, even if it was like Chief Justice John Roberts, who is, you know, pretty conservative, like that's still like, I wouldn't go protest at his grave. Like to me, like that's just it'd be different if he was like Benito Mussolini or like, you know, Kim Jong-un, like an actual monster, you know. Then I think that's a little bit different. But
I understand that people that were protesting are for sure not Republicans, and so I understand that they were definitely team RBG, but like. It's not. But then it's not the time, or the place.
But then on the other hand, too, who he appointed is also like that doesn't honor the legacy of RGB, except for the fact that she's a woman, which we're going to get into next. It's just it's weird. It's like, of course, she should protest or sorry, people can protest. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but I also am saying that might not be the best place. So I guess that's the beauty of this.
I feel you.
Right. I feel you on this. I guess that's the beauty of this country is that like flag burning, like people have a right to burn the flag. Do I agree with it? No. But is that their right? Under the First Amendment, absolutely. You know, and same with like I guess who are those idiots that nobody likes? Westboro Baptist Church. They protest at funerals all the time, and they're
I forget about them.
Yeah, well, right, but I mean, and that's the whole thing too. Is like as much as I dislike them, like. They just like everybody else, they have a right to protest. Like it'd be different. The whole thing's weird. But anyway, of course, our condolences are still with Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her family, and also. I guess more things on politics here in a second. I'm remembering more things as we're talking about it. But basically, so back to where we were starting with. President Trump nominated Amy Coney Barrett to replace Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and Judge Barrett is a graduate from Notre Dame Law School and a hard-leaning right conservative. Mainly, the reason why we say this is because she has been on record saying that she would like to overturn Roe versus Wade, which is is, of course, a monumental decision for women's rights. And it looks like here I am going to explain.
You are explain how somebody becomes a justice. I don't know if we talked about it last week, but I feel like people don't know.
So we did. You did bring up the interesting point last week, how there isn't any experience required to be a Supreme Court justice, just like the rest of our political positions, which is kind of, again, I agree.
It's
kind
of weird, right?
This whole country's kind of weird, honestly. Everything's weird, like.
I do feel like that you should at least be like have to have gone through law school to be president of the country. I'm sorry. I do feel like that is like that just a minimum requirement is 4 extra years of law school. Okay.
Yeah. I don't see, and I get what you're saying, but then
also to be a justice, like hello, you would probably need to be a judge. But at some point in your life, you probably should have gone to law school and been a judge before you can be a Supreme Court justice.
Right. But
then it goes into the topic of, well, they also should have term limits. So we're just going to open a whole bag of worms. So just tell the people, Stephen, how you become a Supreme Court justice.
Basically, the whole connotation of this episode is this country is very weird, and a lot of our processes have great high points, but also great low points. It's so weird. It's absolutely weird. I think what would fix all of this is term limits. I'm 100% for term limits, which actually one of the things that we forgot to mention. We talked for like an hour this week about term limits. We did in the Discord. Yeah, in the Discord. But and I think that's like no matter what side of the aisle you lean on, like everybody's for term limits. I feel like that's just a pretty common sense thing. But also, I would like to mention that any normal person retires at the age of 65. Like you should not be able to work past the age of 60. Just like when you're like 75, you should probably not drive by yourself. Right. Or you should have to retest or whatever. I think that's a fair thing. I mean, does it suck? Absolutely. But is it for but that's
part of life. Life sucks sometimes. Okay.
Life sucks. Yeah, absolutely. You better bet if miraculously, if we make it to be 75, we as in climate change and the way the human race headed,
I got you.
You bet I am going to complain about having to retest at 75, but I don't care because I should have to. If I'm old, potentially senile, that's just I'm trying to help my neighbor.
I feel like at the age of 75, you have the right to complain.
Yeah,
but you still have to do other things in order to be able to drive and do things, right? I'm going to complain. I complain now at the age of 27, so you can only imagine the complaints that is going to come out of my mouth at 75.
Whenever all you have to do is time to complain at 75,
Yes. Yeah. There's nothing else to do but complain. So I'm going to complain, and I'm going to go to the DMV, and I'm going to be like, listen, I did this when I was 16 years old. This is the first time I've done this in 60 years, but here I am. And let me tell you, if you fail me, I'm going to complain.
Right.
But I'm also going to be like, well, I probably just suck now. So
it's part of life. Yeah.
Part of life.
Okay. But back before we're going on so many different tangents.
Rewind.
I love it. But before all of this, back to term limits really quick, is that the Democrats have introduced a bill to place term limits on a Supreme Court justice, which I totally agree with. But of course, it is politically convenient of them to be doing this now and not forever ago.
Very interesting.
Right. I mean, I don't know. The battle strategy of a lot of corporate Democrats is very poor, and while I agree,
very poor.
I mean, I was actually watching old debates on PBS the other day, as in yesterday.
Of course you were, Steven.
Right. Because we have news coming up about that. But I was watching the Clinton and Trump debates, and Trump just wiped the floor with her because she was just going by the books old Democrat strategy, and spoiler alert, it's not a good strategy, but thankfully Joe Biden has.
Yeah, but Clinton's strategy through the whole process was bad anyways. And we've talked about this on the show.
Right.
So it does not surprise me that because she lost the debates. She lost the debates because of that, right?
Yeah. No,
there was she was building up a bad debate, right?
Right. There was a lot of reasons why Hillary lost.
I hope Joe Biden at least comes to fight, right?
Yeah, not basically. Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway, how to be a Supreme Court justice? Yeah, how to be a Supreme Court justice. It's very easy.
Oh, we're back. Yes.
we're back. Okay. Anyway, Judge Amy Coney Barrett has been nominated to replace Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg for the Supreme Court. So again, she is very conservative. She wants to overturn Roe versus Wade, but how to nominate a Supreme Court justice is basically the president has to know who you are, and that goes for either way. Typically you have some sort of legal experience, and this is actually the way it has been since I think pretty much forever, even though it's not required to, and the president will nominate you. And this is now Trump's third nomination, following now Justice Neil Gorsuch, and then the controversial nomination of Justice Kavanaugh, which you and I covered. It's weird that we've been a thing for that long.
Brett. Brett.
Good old Brett. Yeah. And then also,
that was early on. That was like
that was his second one.
Yeah,
his
I
second
feel like
one.
that was like 2018.
Yeah, I think so.
2019.
I think 2018. I think it was happening during the midterms, or it could have been
I think so,
2017, because Gorsuch was early. Gorsuch, I think, was 2017, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, Gorsuch was really early.
Right. So this is now Trump's third Supreme Court pick, and again, he is well within his rights to do so. But we necessarily don't agree with it. But we also didn't agree with Obama doing the same thing with Merrick Garland back in 2016. So of course, it's hypocritical of the Republicans to say, like, oh, like now we of course want to nominate somebody, but then the Democrats saying, oh, well, they shouldn't, but then they did the same thing. So basically, as usual, mainstream versions of both parties suck, and they always will. And then how to be Supreme Court justice is you get nominated by the president, and then you are there for life currently. But the
Supreme Court has to.
The Senate has to confirm you. The Senate has to confirm. And by a simple majority, so only 51 is required, which I believe will happen with Judge Amy Coney Barrett, but it will be a Hail Mary just because of like the time that we have until the election. I mean, I think it'll happen. Like I'd say like 70% chance she'll get confirmed. But there's a pretty also like sizable minority chance that it won't happen, but I'm right now predicting that it will.
I mean, there have been some people come out and be like, I'm going to say no.
And even Republicans too. Like we talked about the other week.
Well, that's what I was saying. A lot of Republicans have said.
Right. And the weird thing though is like the main ones have been Susan Collins of Maine. There's the lady, and her name's Lisa something with a K, in Alaska, and then Joni Ernst of Iowa. The three of them have actually said that they're not going to vote to confirm, but that's still not enough for it to go under because Mike Pence has the tie-breaking vote. So really we're just waiting to see on if any other Republicans will like switch their positions.
And they might not openly say it. They might just do it the day of. But
whatever. The weird thing is there's another swing Republican, good old Willard Mitt Romney. Everybody was thinking, Willard. Yeah, we were people were thinking that he might have an issue with it, but he actually came out earlier this week and said that he will vote to confirm. So it's going to be weird. But also Chuck Grassley, another one from Iowa, he's in the mix now too, which is weird. So it's going to be an interesting process, and we'll keep y'all updated for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. So now back up to this is we are going to be having our first presidential debate this week. So that's why I've been watching old debates. I actually rewatched the very first debate between John Fitzgerald Kennedy and Richard Milhous Nixon back in 1960. And
man, JFK, what a time to be alive, right?
Yeah. And the weird thing is
I wish I was there when JFK got nominated as president.
Yeah.
Like, man, the party that went on.
Yeah. Yeah. Then and that was like the, midst of the Kennedy dynasty, which is now pretty much over.
Yes.
Fun fact, Joe Kennedy III, first Kennedy to ever lose an election in Massachusetts. So I was pretty stoked about that because I don't like dynasties. But anyway, it was really interesting because there's, of course, like the longtime study for that was people who listened to the debate thought Nixon won, but people who watched the debate, because that was the first televised debate, thought Kennedy won. And I can for sure understand why. I watched half of it and then listened to half of it. And so I, of course, like politically, I lean definitely more towards John F. Kennedy than Richard Nixon. But Nixon, for a Republican, was actually, oh my gosh, the whole Nixon presidency is weird. If he wouldn't have been so paranoid, I honestly believe he would have gone down as one of the greatest Republican presidents of all time, because without Nixon, we wouldn't have the EPA, we wouldn't have had normalize relations with China. Like he did a lot of good.
No, Nixon did so much in his terms as
Right,
president.
but he just got worried for some reason, and he had that election in the bag, and then he had to go lose it for himself. It was really weird.
Yeah.
If you want to read an interesting chapter of American history, the Nixon administration is a pretty good one. But during the debate, JFK, you could tell he was very confident. He was very well spoken, but you can also tell he wasn't as experienced as Nixon was, because he simply wasn't. But then whenever you watch Nixon, he was like literally sweating and shaking. You can tell he was very uncomfortable, but his voice sounded very confident and things like that. Really weird. I would encourage y'all to watch at least a little bit of it.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
It is. Yeah, it's super interesting because really, if you listen to it, you're like, oh, Nixon's wiping the floor with this guy. But then if you watch it, you're like, oh wow, Nixon is terrifying.
Oh wow,
it's weird. It's super weird.
JFK is winning.
Yeah, so we are going to have 4 presidential debates as per usual, or 3 and then 1 vice presidential debate. And starting this week, we will have our first one, which is going to be tomorrow, September 29th at 8 p.m. Central Time. That is going to be in Cleveland, Ohio, moderated by Fox News' Chris Wallace, who had that really good interview with Trump, and Chris Wallace destroyed Trump on COVID.
Destroyed.
Yeah, it was bad. And then following that, on Wednesday, October the 7th at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, there will be a vice presidential debate in Salt Lake City, Utah, moderated by USA Today's Susan Page. Then the next week, Thursday, October 15th at 8 p.m. Central Time, there will be a presidential debate in Miami, Florida, moderated by C-SPAN's Stephen, with a V, L. Scully. And then finally, we have on Thursday, October 22nd at 8 p.m. Central Time, it will be a presidential debate in Nashville, Tennessee, moderated by NBC's Kristen Welker. So we actually have 2 of the 4 debates are being moderated by women. I think that's great. I am all for it.
Fantastic.
So that's.
I'm sad that PBS didn't get on this.
Yeah. Sorry, that's another can of worms. Whenever I take over, PBS will be the only station to do presidential debates. The only station. It makes the most sense because out of all of these ones, minus C-SPAN, they're all for-profit media. And
which way they lean.
Right, and even with Chris Wallace,
like they're for profit, but they Chris Wallace. Yeah, he did destroy Trump, but he is Fox News, and Fox News is he's way right side.
He's corporately obligated to back Trump, basically, just like the NBC debate, Kristen Welker. Even though I don't know how she leans personally, but even if she did support Trump, it's NBC, so she's gonna have to favor Biden somehow. But yeah,
100%.
So whenever I take over, it will be 4 PBS NewsHour debates hosted by Judy Woodruff or whoever the head of PBS NewsHour is, and it will be very boring but very informational.
But we love it.
Which is the way
we'll love every minute of it.
And then finally, before I give Lydia pass the mic theoretically to Lydia about the next section, because I feel like I've been going for way too long. So as of now, there will not be a 4-hour-long debate on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, which kind of sounds like it will be silly. However,
did we do that? Wait, was that a thing?
There was speculation about it. Trump, I think, retweeted saying that he would have agreed to it. It, of course, got a lot of people hype on Twitter. I mean,
4 hours? That is so long.
I like that idea. I do not like Joe Rogan. I'll just go ahead and make that obvious. But in theory, I like that idea. How it would just be a very boring debate with no audience on like neutral ground, which, could be like, again, PBS or NPR, like a public service.
Well, instead of Joe Rogan, how about they just come on our podcast and we can ask some really boring questions, super, questions that are very middle line, and then see how well they answer it.
Ooh. Or what we could do is we could do like a grab bag. It could be like half real questions and then half bullshit questions. Like, hey, Joe Biden,
normal Cheetos or hot Cheetos.
Right. Stuff that people actually care about. I don't care what fraternity you were in college, Biden and Trump, like whatever. Like nobody cares. What I want to know is cereal a soup? straight from y'all, like that is what,
Okay.
well, but seriously, I mean, if I'm not
Is
gonna
lasagna a sandwich?
right, or is Pop-Tarts are Pop-Tarts a ravioli, like there's a lot of different ways you can go with it.
Do you eat your Pop-Tarts frozen or hot?
Right.
These are the things the people want to know,
well, and that's the thing. If I can't hear exclusively the issues, I at least want to hear BS questions that I'm interested in, not anything
100%.
like, Joe Biden, your father was a car salesman. What was that like? I don't give a shit. As a voter, I don't care. I don't care.
Stephen, how did your car salesman dad, how did that make you become the vice president of the United States? And now you're here running for president. How did that help you along your path?
They will ask questions as dumb as that. I mean, maybe more so like in the party debates, like whenever, okay, like prime example, in the 2016 election, the Republican debates, like they gave Trump every opportunity to say like Lion Ted, Little Marco, Sleepy Jeb, or whatever, like all of the Paper Jam Fiorina, like all of like the dumb names that he had for the candidates. And it's like, no, don't ask him about stuff like that. Ask him like what's your favorite Lego set? Like something. If you're gonna ask us BS, give us BS that we care about. That's all I have to say.
What the people want to know, Stephen.
Right. Speaking of the people, what's next, Lydia?
The people.
Yes.
So we have election result disputes, and it is getting a little crazy out there in the world of 2020. So it is nearly certain that we will not have the results of the November election on November 3rd. However, President Trump has been floating around the idea of not accepting the results. President Trump has said that this election has ballots that are a whole big scam and has not committed to accepting the official results, which is interesting because if you follow him on Twitter, which I do, he tweeted about Florida's online ballot, not online mail-in ballots. He tweeted about Pennsylvania's mail-in ballots and said, hey guys, today's the last day to mail in your ballot. Right. Go ahead and mail it in. And also, if you didn't know, President Trump mails in his ballot.
Right. Because he...
So I'm just confused as to how he's not going to accept the results, but he actually does that. Like, he does the thing, right?
Right. It makes no sense.
And he does... I mean, he probably gives it to somebody, and somebody gives it to the mail guy, right? But
either way, he's mailing it in. Right.
But either way, it's via mail.
Either way, he's not going to Florida, showing up at his polling place and voting. That's exactly. That's the moral of the story.
Republicans have been critical to back the president in this aspect, which I have noticed. I've been very happy about this.
Same here.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell stated in a tweet on September 24th, the winner of the November 3rd election will be inaugurated on January 20th. There will be an orderly transition, just as there has been every 4 years since 1792.
Yes.
Which most of the Republicans and the Democrats, I mean, ever since Trump said this, by the way, he said this like aloud to a new, like there were people. Right. So everybody was like, oh man, writing it down and like got it on camera. Because he literally said, oh, that's not happening, basically. And everybody was like, wait, hold on. Hold the phone, pal. Like, wait, you can't.
Right.
No.
Right. I mean,
like if you lose, goodbye. Like you lose. If you win, okay, then you won.
Right.
I would also like to point out,
that's how life works. You win, you lose, you go home.
This is like not everybody deserves a trophy, okay? And if you don't win the presidential election, you don't deserve the trophy on January 20th.
And he's the same people who's like, oh, all the snowflakes and whatever, but he's saying, yeah, he's the one throwing the temper tantrum. Go figure.
He's the one being a
sorry,
big
what were you saying?
But I would like to point out too that a lot of these news places that are right leaning have been like, well, the people wanted him in 2016. The people voted. And I just want to be like, hello, do you not remember that he didn't win the popular vote, guys?
Right.
Like the people didn't vote for him, actually. Plot twist, he didn't win the people's votes.
Right.
He only won because of the Electoral College. So I really need people to be more educated. And I'm not even the most educated on this subject, but I even know that the people voted for Hillary Clinton, but he won Electoral College votes. And that is why he's president. It's not because the people.
And there is a very, very good reason why out of the 3 times that this has happened, like in terms of like, one person winning the popular vote and one person winning the Electoral College, there's a very good reason why 2 out of those 3 times have been in our lifetime. And that's because of how how both parties have shaped the political landscape into those 7 states,
7 states,
Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, all of them. Yep. And also,
it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
And I feel like, and kind of back to what we were talking about with Mitch McConnell, you can very definitely say that this podcast is no fan of Donald Trump. Like we will go ahead and, blatantly.
That's fine. But we also give him the credit when he does something.
And that's what I'm saying. Like people can rightfully say that, like, yeah, you and I, we lean kind of left, but if something good happens out of the opposite camp, we will talk about it.
We'll talk about it.
Right. So we just
I just needed to remind everybody that.
Yeah. I just wanted to quell any, people like, oh, Stephen and Lydia are always mean to Donald Trump.
Stephen and Lydia, blah, blah, blah. They want to go after him.
Which we are. We're mean to Donald Trump, but also if he does something good.
But also we're mean to Biden when he says stupid stuff too.
Yeah, we had that whole episode.
We're like, wait, excuse me, Biden, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah, whenever he said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, we literally named that episode You Ain't Stevia.
Oh my gosh, I forgot of it.
Yeah, people are dumb. Okay.
Embarrassing. I forgot that he even did that.
Yeah.
Also, when Trump says sleepy Joe Biden, I do think that's funny because he did look like he was about to fall asleep in one of those interviews. So that's funny. Like, okay. Anyways.
I'm so excited for these presidential debates because like you and I have been saying, this is going to be like 2 senile old men arguing about whose version of the good old days were better, while people like you and 100%. I were like, hey, all we want is healthcare. All we want is to not be drowning in debt. Like, that's it. Hello.
Yeah.
Like,
if you could lower my taxes, that'd be great.
Right.
And also, can somebody explain to me why I have to pay taxes 65 times every month? You take taxes out of my paycheck. I go to the Walmart and everything is taxed. I go to the store or the gas station and my gas is taxed. But I already paid the taxes on my check, so I'm confused why I still get.
And the dumb thing is it doesn't even go to stuff we want. Like, you know what? If
it goes to like freaking Kazakhstan, and I don't even know anybody over there.
Right, and it goes to like literally like terrorists and like getting more weapons for our already very heavily equipped military. And it's like, dude, if we can afford all of these things, like sign me up. Like, I will voluntarily pay for your health care if that means you're going to pay for my health care, if that means neither one of us are going to go. I
just talked about this today with the girls. I was like, honestly, I already pay all these taxes. If you charge me $100 more in taxes, and I knew that the homeless man on the side of the road that's literally sitting there holding a sign saying, I need insulin.
Yeah.
I would happily pay $100 for this guy to be able to do that.
Or a high-speed rail system, like that would be something cool.
Oh, that would be cool.
Like tax the hell out of me for that. Like, I mean, those Apache helicopters we're buying, I'm never gonna fly one.
To fly an Apache helicopter. What the heck?
I mean, like, maybe if they gave every citizen a turn with the Apache helicopter, like that'd be
cool. Would be kind of cool.
But that would never happen. So
no,
whatever. So speaking of the military, additionally, in a letter to Congress on August the 28th, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, wrote, quote, I believe very deeply in the principle of an apolitical U.S. military. In the event of a dispute over some aspect of the elections, by law, U.S. courts and the U.S. Congress are required to resolve any disputes, not the U.S. military. I foresee no role for the U.S. Armed Forces in this process. So thankfully, that means that literally the head of the military is saying that we're not going to use the military to either keep or get Trump out of power.
Yeah, that's fantastic though. But I would like to bring up 2 points.
Yeah, let's bring it up. Bring it up.
Fantastic that this guy has said this, but 2, kind of scary that he has to say this. Want to know why?
Why?
Because the moment that Trump said that he'd be a little bit, not okay with that, is the moment that everyone realized that was a little Hitlerish.
Yeah,
okay,
a little
because
bit.
Hitler. I mean, if we want to recall some history here, he wasn't going down. He wasn't going down without a fight, my dudes.
Right.
Like, he wasn't leaving office. He,
Yeah. And whenever he's
Steven, it makes me a little.
yeah.
Ugh.
So thankfully though, our government is at least fighting back. And I mean, I would like to say that if Trump loses, we're not going to see any sort of things like that. But at this point, I already guarantee
I would, if he lost, I would like to see a temper tantrum and maybe some handcuffs out of the White House.
Oh, yeah,
funny.
like if he broke the law, then yes, like then
Yeah.
he actually gets, like then I would love to see it, because then that would also prove that the president is not above like the normal citizen, which I love that principle. But whatever. So it's going to be interesting. We will keep you updated on all things, debate all things, because it's going to be stressful the next few months. So just buckle on in. It's everybody's favorite time of year.
Buckle in, man.
In a really bad year already. All right. And then news out of Stevia League. What do we have there? Yeah.
I just noticed that you said that.
Yeah, for real.
So Stevia League, Steven.
Yes.
Dang it. I deleted the freaking tweet. Stevia
no.
League, congratulations to Alec Beeson for winning our 3rd edition of Stevia League. Alec took home the gold and the $10 Nintendo eShop gift card in our Dale Senior Memorial Mario Kart 8 tournament. It was very hard. It was a very hard fought battle.
It was.
We are planning to close the year out with at least 2 more editions of Stevia League. Stay tuned to see what we come up with.
Yes, we do have some really interesting ideas, including one that started out as a joke. So if you are privy to that,
gosh.
Yeah,
Steven's in charge of figuring out the logistics of this joke.
Yeah, but
because my mind's like this.
It might work. We'll have to wait and see. So that's kind of all we have for the regular news. And then now, here we are almost an hour later into the podcast.
Yeah, remember when we said, we don't have really that much stuff?
Yeah,
and then here we are.
I feel like that always happens. Like we'll say like, we have a lot to talk about. Then we like, like speed through it. But then we have we just like, hey, let's just, bullshit back and forth. And
it'll be fun.
Hey, I like it. And I think the people like it too.
They like it. And it gets them through their drives. So really we need to be an hour long so that people can listen to us the whole time.
Right. This whole thing's one big marketing scheme. Like we have to hit like X amount of time because like that's the average commute or whatever. That's not true. But that would be funny if it was.
It's not real, but it'd be funny.
So Stevia Sound Off is a section where Team Stevia sends us questions and takes, good or bad, we don't care. And as long as they are within reason, everybody on the show will answer them. We post a weekly thread on our Instagram story and on our Twitter, and we have a dedicated channel on our Discord for this section. So what is in the mailbag this week, Lydia?
Well, we'll just start it out with @Steven, aka the Steven English. He stole this / modified from You Been to the Future on Ask Reddit. You can't time travel, but your phone has the internet from 5 years in the future. You only get one search, but your answer is guaranteed. What do you search for?
Okay, so you said, Lydia, that you've been sitting on this answer for a long time. So do you want me to go first, or for anticipation, do you want to go first?
I will go first.
Okay. Oh, also, what was your clarification? I remember that too. You said you wanted to
clarify. So I am going to ask. So you say in this question,
yes,
you can't time travel, but your phone has the internet from 5 years in the future.
Yes.
So say this is today, so it's 2020. So if I go to my phone, it is from 2025, right?
Yes, from today.
So
today, 2025.
So you say you only get one search, but your answer is guaranteed. So my clarification on this is that in theory, I could go into Google search, ask the question, and then a whole bunch of articles show up. Correct?
Correct. But where I was going out with this is that, like, you know how like Google will do like the first result, and sometimes it's not exactly what you're looking for. So for this search, the first result will be guaranteed what you're looking for. Like it will answer your question. Yeah.
Okay. So my question
will be answered.
My question will be answered, and my question would be something along the lines of worst disasters in the last 5 years.
Oh, okay. That's pretty smart.
And then it would answer, I think it would answer volcanoes, hurricanes, fires, nuclear wars, assassinations, I think is what it covers.
Okay, that's interesting. I would like to. Okay, and the weird thing is, I thought about this too, is that I feel like you couldn't tell people to try to prevent the future, because if you're the only one with the internet from 5 years in the future, and if you go tell everybody, they're not going to believe you. I wouldn't believe
No.
you. Yeah, no one would believe you. That's just ridiculous. You'd be
No
like a
one would.
lunatic.
I mean, I might believe you,
But if
but
I would,
I
but
don't
if
think
I went on
anybody else would
Twitter,
believe me.
it'd be like Nostradamus. Like how many predictions has he
I
gotten
believe
wrong?
him though. I
But,
believe him.
Well, he's gotten a lot wrong though. But that's what there's a lot of.
But he's got some right.
But he's got. But I guess the same can be said about anybody. But the likelihood.
And
of
if
people,
you do something so vague that you know something cool like
That's
every
true.
month, right?
right?
You do something so vague that something will show up for every month of the last 5 years, you're gonna be bound to be right, and then people are gonna be like,
Yeah,
"Hey,
just
that person,
That's
they
just
know."
probability. Yeah. I think what I would Google search is I would search. So like Wikipedia does like timelines of decades. So I would look just simply, I would just type in Wikipedia on Google, Wikipedia, the 2020s, because what it would do is it would show each year and all of the major historical events that have happened.
I like that.
That way I can at least, brace myself. And if there's any way that, like I could convince people that it's going to happen, or that way I just know that, I might as well just like yeet myself on out of here.
I think we're on the same page on that one then.
For sure.
Because I would like to know like big things
right
that happened.
And I feel like
did we drop another atomic bomb?
Right.
That would show up on there.
And see, the weird thing is, I feel like if you were to ask us this question in 2015, we wouldn't be answering like existential stuff. We'd be like, oh, who would be the Super Bowl champion for the next 5 years so we can get rich? Not because like this wasn't 2020.
In 2015 because 2015, or because it wasn't what we've experienced in this 1 year?
It's that.
Is that what you're saying?
The second one, right. Because 2015 was pretty like, it was, I mean, sure, there was stuff going wrong in the world. There will always be stuff going wrong in the world, but it wasn't like to this level.
But 2020 is the biggest mind F that we've ever had in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
In everybody's lifetimes, really, since like World War II, probably.
Absolutely. So next up, Guyver
Maybe Vietnam, but no, probably World War II.
Right. So Guyver Unit 01, he asks, same scenario as last week. So last week he had that really good question. If we could only bring 2 albums with us to a deserted island, what would it be and why? He said same scenario as last week, but you only get 2 video games that you can play, never anything else. What would you choose and why? You went first last time, so I'll go first this time. I'm going to assume that I'm going to be with other people. So I would have to bring like some sort of like Mario Party game, so that way it's something that's always different and like the outcome's different every time. I initially thought to do like 2 big RPGs, but then especially if one has a preset story, it would just get so old, like just doing the same thing over and over and over again. So I'd pick a good multiplayer game. Let's just say Mario Party 9 for the Switch, just because that's the most recent one. And then I would also bring, oh man, what would I bring? That's tough. I mean, and neither of these games are my favorite games by any means, but I just think I would get the most out of them. And then I'd bring Breath of the Wild, because the story is just so.
I mean, it takes like 400 hours to beat the game, anyways.
Right. And then but the story
without even doing all the missions.
Right. And the story is just so vague. And like, it's not like, anything has to be set in stone. And like the main part, the main feature of that game is the adventure that you're having. Yeah. So I think I'd be okay with that. So both Nintendo for me. So
I took it as like I'm on this island by myself, and this is what I have to entertain myself. So I would do I think I would probably do Mario 64.
Oh, nice.
Because I mean, there's lots of different levels. It's always fun no matter what. And who doesn't want to master that game anyways, right?
Right.
And then I would do it would probably be some kind of shooting game, because those are always different. Like, do I have online in this world?
Yeah, well,
like,
see,
I don't.
If you
like,
did,
can I be online?
I mean, yeah, but then why couldn't you just say, "Hey, I'm at this island. Come help me," and then somebody comes and gets you?
Yeah, that's true.
So,
well, if it was like if I had internet, if I had like I could be online with the world, but maybe not talk, then I would do like a Call of Duty, because it's different every time. It's fun.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
You know what I mean? But if not, it would just probably be some kind of like Tarkov, where you go in every time and it's different. I think that something like that would probably be my answer.
Yeah. Okay. I dig it. So I guess,
but definitely like a Mario 64 for like just like a chill I could play this game forever game.
Awesome. All right. So next up, let's go ahead and do, I think this was next in chronological order, was our top 5 movies. So Lydia, what are your top 5 movies?
Yeah. So my top 5 movies, it took me a long time.
Yeah, it did. It took both
I
of us
could
a
do
long
top 5
time.
movies for like different genres. You know, I'm just such a movie nerd.
Right.
But I settled with number 1, Interstellar. Number 2, Braveheart.
Okay.
Number 3, Avatar. Number 4, The Silence of the Lambs. And number 5, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse was so good. Like, even like,
I mean,
as a standalone non-superhero movie, it was very, very good. Sony did a wonderful job with that movie.
Yes.
So I've seen all of those. So my top 5, love Silence of the Lambs, by the way. Love it.
Yeah, such a great movie.
So my top 5 is going to be La La Land. That's been my number 1 for a very long time. Then followed by The Big Lebowski, which is a very good comedy movie. A very big.
I've never seen it.
It's a cult classic movie. It's really good. And then third is going to be A Clockwork Orange. 4 is going to be the original Blade Runner, starring Harrison Ford. And then my 5th is going to be The Truman Show with Jim Carrey. Love that movie.
Well, did you ever watch the new Blade Runner?
No, I haven't. I need to. 2049. I need to.
It's good. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it compared to the first one. I mean, it was fantastic.
Okay. Right on. And then it looks like
so then our homies, they some people responded to us. So Nick Midnight says, my current top 5 in no particular order is 1, Her, great movie.
Never seen
2, Punch Drunk Love. 3, The Lion King, which of course.
Right.
4, Holes, which also yes, and then 5, Uncut Gems, which I actually didn't get to see. Matt saw it twice, I think, and I didn't watch it.
I haven't seen Her, Punch Drunk Love, or Uncut Gems. Those are the 3 I haven't seen.
I
from
haven't
that
seen
list.
Punch Drunk Love.
Gotcha.
Well, but I maybe should put it on my list if it's number 2 on his.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for the reply, Nick, and also you should check out his music. He's a very talented rapper out of Oklahoma City. And then one of our executive producers, Grandmaester Cody Robinson, he wrote The Fifth Element, which I have not seen.
Oh my gosh, Steven, The Fifth Element is a movie. It's so funny because it's such a great movie, but I remember it's like it has to be my mom and dad's like probably top 5 movies as well, because growing up, The Fifth Element was always on TV. Like if it was on TV, like with commercials or whatever, it was on in our house.
Really?
Like, I remember growing up watching The Fifth Element every year forever, like once a month at least.
Okay.
So Dad, if you're listening to this, call me and tell me, is that one of your favorite movies? Okay. I need to know.
Right on. And then next up is for Cody Robinson is The Prestige. I have not seen that one. Third is going to be Van Helsing, which I have not seen. And then 4 is going to be A Knight's Tale, which will never guess. Have not seen.
You haven't seen, but it is amazing.
Yeah,
it's
I've
such
heard
a good
that.
movie.
And then the same with number 5, Tombstone. Heard that's a great movie. It's a good Western from what I've heard. Haven't seen it. So
I would like to put an honorable mention on mine before we go to the others like us.
Yeah.
My honorable mention is The Patriot with Mel Gibson.
Haven't seen it.
It is, I mean, we would make my top 5 easy if I didn't have these other great movies on here.
Gotcha.
And then the others like us, which we had on our podcast a few episodes ago. If you guys haven't listened to their stuff, you need to. But they said number 1.
That was the Odyssey. Another O band.
Oh, rip.
Yeah, no worries.
My bad.
But we did talk about them. We talked about them on that episode.
We talked about them.
And then there's the others in the
that's
Odyssey.
What it was.
I understand. Yeah. This is Sam
sorry,
Smith.
guys.
This is Sam Smith's band.
They said number 1, Paul Blart Mall Cop 2.
Okay.
And then number 2 was Paul Blart Mall Cop. And then number 3 was Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Okay.
4, Paul Blart Mall Cop. And 5, if you would not even guess, it would be Paul Blart Mall Cop.
I'm not even gonna lie.
So here we are.
I love Paul Blart Mall Cop. I think it's a dumb movie, but it's so fun to watch.
I need to know why. I need to know why.
Because
I just need to know why.
One of their songs is actually named Paul Blart Mall Cop 3 Tokyo Drift, which is funny. So I think that's partially why, but I haven't seen Paul Blart Mall Cop 2, but I like Paul Blart
I
Mall
don't.
Cop 1. I don't even care.
I've watched it, but they're just
It's stupid, but
no.
it's funny. It's a funny movie.
This
It's
is
just,
me.
it's
No.
it's the fact that he is in Kevin James. Like, he's perfect for that role. Like, a dude who takes his job way too seriously. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like the fact that he makes up like this oath, like about being a mall cop, and you know, and it's
Yeah.
like we and then his boss is like, you know, we don't have an oath. He's like, oh, I made up one. It's funny.
Oh, I made one up. Haha.
So the next up, Joe Taggart asks, which we've already answered this on a previous episode, but if you were stranded, in a way, but not this particular instance. So he asks, if you were stranded on a mountain, if you were stranded on a mountaintop after a plane crash and your co-host died, would you cook them and eat them in order to help you survive? Yes, that is the only way I would ever eat another human being, is if it was for survival.
100% yes.
And if they were already dead.
Now the question does remain: would you feel bad? Yes, of course I would feel bad, and every bite I would be like, Steven. But I think that Steven, in his deathly state, would want me to eat him, so I could at least survive, because he's already dead.
Yeah, if I'm dead, I'm dead.
Exactly.
Like, just don't. Of course 100%. You wouldn't, but don't violate me. Like that's all I would ask for. Like, out of any death wish. Like, I'm just saying, like, just like that's all I care about, is don't desecrate my corpse.
And if you survive. If you survive because you ate me,
right?
You know, maybe find a nice beach to put my grave, like just to be like, you know, thank you, Lydia, or like do some kind of give me a flag or
like a scholarship or something like that. You know, some sort of like memorial thing. Yeah,
something memorial because my body saved you.
Right, and that's like the whole.
And I would do the same. Right. But yes, we would eat each other. 100%.
Absolutely, but yeah, but my whole caveat is Lydia would already have to be dead. I would not. I wouldn't
kill him.
Right. I wouldn't kill Lydia to then eat her. If she just happened to die in the plane crash through no fault of my own, I would eat her to survive. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think we would. I think if we both survived the plane crash, I think we would try our best to get out of the situation, so we wouldn't have to eat each other.
I mean, ideally, the way I would envision
we would be running down the mountain. We'd be rolling down the mountain as fast as we could.
What I would actually do, so my strategy was also going down the mountain, but what I would do is, if it was still intact, take the inflatable slide and take that down the mountain, because that way
I'm down.
Right, because then that way, if we hit a rock, we're not hitting a rock. It's this big inflatable slide, and then it also might be fun. You know,
also might be fun, and with the big inflatable slides too, you can put stuff in it. So maybe we slide down and then we hit something, and then now we have a shelter,
right?
And some other stuff. I mean,
we're probably not going to survive the plane wreck, but if we do, I think we can.
The odds are slim,
but yeah. And then finally, Guyver Unit 01 asks again, which of the freedoms that we have, we as in I assume he means Americans, do you all feel are most important to you, and why? That's a good question. So Lydia, what do you think?
Yeah, great question.
You might have the same answer.
I would like to preface this with all of them, because I'm a woman and they weren't built for me.
Right.
So
I love you just laughing. You're like, so that was funny.
So there's that. I think that, you know, I truly think they're all important, but I find it interesting that in times like this, not everybody still has those freedoms. So it's just hard to be like, well, because I'm a white woman, I really enjoy freedom of speech because I know nobody will ever shoot me over it.
Right.
I mean, and that's the truth, right? But if a black woman were to say the same thing, I mean, she can't.
Oh yeah, and speaking of Breonna Taylor, none of her officers. I'm so upset about that. I didn't want to put it down because
but the neighbors got some money out of the deal for the holes in the wall.
Yeah. So the only thing. So the only officer that got charged was for the one that missed Brianna and the boyfriend, which is I didn't put it on there because it makes me so mad. It makes me so mad that some police officers can just kill people and it's
fine because they're cops,
and unlawfully raid homes and they get impunity. It's so wrong. It's so wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
So the freedom that I think is most important, I think I probably took this with a too theoretical approach, but to me the most important important freedom that we have in our country, and it's not exclusive to us because most places have this, but I think the most important freedom that you can have is is the right to free speech, and then a right to a free press. Because if you suppress information, that's whenever you start seeing a lot of like the totalitarian stuff, or like in our case, suppressing the vote, which like we talked about earlier. The more the common working class can be suppressed, the better it is for the ruling class to stay in power, and that's not cool.
And that's not cool. So our answers were the same: freedom of speech, but it's not.
Yeah.
I think that if the question is just for us too, then yes, freedom of speech and freedom of press, because I mean, basically that's what we do here right now. Talking to you is us having freedom of speech and freedom of press.
Yeah.
But I did want to reiterate that not everyone has that freedom, even though it is part of who you're supposed to be as an American.
Exactly. Yeah. We still have a long ways to go. And then depending on how this year turns out, we might have longer. So we'll just have to wait and see. This month is going to be very tumultuous, Team Stevia, but we are going to ride it out together. We're going to be miserable together.
Hey, I get married this month though, so that's cool. That's the only positive thing out of 2020 I get to marry Matt.
I have like multiple weddings this month. I have my brother.
Yeah, every weekend.
Yeah, my brother is getting married Saturday the 10th, so next Saturday. I'm best man in that one. And then the 17th, our friend and former intern Blake Westerby is getting married, and I'm doing that wedding. So that'll be cool. I actually have my letter of good standing right here that I need to turn into the Tulsa County Courthouse. And then the following week is your wedding, which I am running audio for and emceeing. So I have a role in all of these weddings, and I'm very excited about it.
It's because you're very trustworthy.
Well, thank you. And then Mike and Kayla, they were supposed to have a wedding this month, but then of course COVID happened, so they went and eloped, and that is why Jolene is with us, because we offered to help them out that way. So literally, Abby and I, we have one weekend, well, excluding Halloween, we have one weekend off this month, and we're excited because thankfully these are all weddings that we're excited for. It's not like
they're good weddings.
It's not like our fifth cousin's wedding, like somebody who I haven't seen or whatever. Then I don't really care. No offense. And I wouldn't expect them to care about me. Like that's just how life works, if you're so far removed, who cares, who cares? No hard feelings. Yeah, maybe not that, unless they're horrible people, but whatever. So thank you all so much today for listening to our mini tangents that we had. Hopefully you all found them at least somewhat entertainable.
They might have agreed to a lot of our tangents, honestly.
Maybe, maybe they didn't. If not, tweet at us and we might or might not reply.
I also would like to know from the people, if you're still here, when we're talking to you, do you guys like talk back in the car? Because sometimes I'm listening to podcasts, and when I agree with something, I'm like, I do agree with that, and I like talk to myself about it, but also I listen to the people too. So it's like, so do you talk to us? I want to know.
Podcasts are cool. Yeah, that's a really good question. So you, of course, speaking of talking to us, you can follow us on all the social media platforms with the handle at The Stevia Show, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcast app that you listen to. If you're on YouTube, just simply search for The Stevia Show and subscribe with the notification button, and be sure to smash that like icon.
Make sure to check out our streams. We stream at least twice a week. Stream schedules are posted on all platforms monthly and our Instagram weekly. Anchor producers are able to join multiplayer streams and in-game chat. We would like to thank our Anchor producers for their continued support. You can support us for as little as 99 cents a month and receive exclusive Discord roles and bonus episodes every month.
Yes.
It's the end of the month. I have one though. We have it written up.
Okay, cool.
But my old job kicked me out of my stuff, and so I didn't save the PowerPoint to the Stevia Show. I have to redo that.
That's why you got to do it. You got to use it on your personal emails or our email.
That was just really unfortunate. So I'll just have to redo that. But
they kicked you out really quick, because I looked at the Hangouts, like how it's like the Google Messenger, and I had your old employer's name down there. That was before we started using Discord, and it had like the X, and it was like, okay, she gone. It was quick.
I mean, literally, they kicked me out within like 2 days.
I wonder how long.
I had 2 days to get all my emails over to my personal one.
I wonder how long. I wonder how long it'll take them to kick me out after I graduate in December, because that's going to be interesting.
I always thought that students got to keep theirs, so that's why I was like, dude, I literally to HR, I was like, I was a student.
I think you get to keep it for 5 years.
Twice here, and you're going to kick me out in 2 days, and they're like, yep, and I was like, all right.
What harm would it have done? I mean, I still have access to transcripts from that institution. Just
So,
a
like,
heads up. So
but they literally kicked me out in 2 days. I guess they're just so mad. But
maybe. I mean, but
their own fault, you know.
whatever. Oh yeah, Lydia has a new job, by the way. Congratulations
I have
to
a new job.
Lydia. Yeah. I don't think we talked about it on here, but she is, I believe, very happy. I don't want to speak for you. So
I am.
okay,
Yes.
excellent.
It was a great first week for sure, and I love it.
Oh, and we're once again coworkers. So that's
we
awesome.
We're coworkers again.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
We're coworkers at our day job, and we're coworkers at our second job.
I keep just following you around.
Hey,
I did this when I moved to the other job too.
I guess that means I make good decisions. So I guess
Yeah.
So okay, that's good. That's good.
10 out of 10 decisions.
Thank you. And then finally, we also have merchandise available through our links in our bio and show notes. So when you visit us online, check out our link tree and click on merch. We ship nationwide as well. So if you live in Buffalo, Los Angeles, Green Bay, New Orleans, who else did we talk about? Washington, D.C., and then Florida, Ohio, Tennessee, Utah for the debates. There's 9.
And
there's
the
9.
random mountain that we were stuck on.
Oh, that we crashed in, whichever one that might be.
And the island.
And the island. Hopefully a not very remote island, and hopefully a not very tall mountain, because that would make it easier for both scenarios there. So we'll get it figured out. But as always, Team Stevia, thank you all so much for listening. We hope to make your day at least just a little bit better by talking to us. Just be sure to follow us on all social media, as well as joining the Discord. I think that's gotten a lot of people through this year. It's gotten me through this year, honestly.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it's just it's like one big friend group.
Come
it's
join
so
us.
fun. Yeah, join us. Yeah, come
Join
us.
us.
We have cookies. Yeah, well, we don't have cookies. Maybe that could be our next thing. Cookies. I don't know. That'd be cool. All right.
ASMR, join.
Yeah, Stevia ASMR. Oh man, that'd be so weird. All right. But I think for now, that'll do it for our episode. Yeah. All right. So as always, this is Steven.
And this is Lydia.
And we'll see y'all later.
Bye, guys.
See y'all later.